Hey everybody, Maddie here with Altcoin Buzz. Happy Monday, and boy, is it ever nice to wake up to the kind of market that we're seeing today. Total market cap of cryptocurrency up nearly 2%, $476.6 billion. Bitcoin right now over $16,400. That is up 2.2% in the last 24 hours. A lot of projects are actually doing very nicely. See a lot of green today. The standout for us, certainly that we're noticing, is Litecoin, up over 13% at the time of this recording, $71.26. We'll come back to Litecoin, even though it is the star performer. Really, I think this is all being spurred on by comments made by a CitiBank executive, except the only thing is that these comments were issued in a letter, in a detailed analysis to some of his close clients that was then leaked. But here's the deal, effectively. Larry Cermak here of The Block, before everyone gets hyped on the Citi report, just to kind of temper expectations, the same guy did say in 2013 that gold was going to hit $3,500 and even use the same 1970s analogy. So just keep that in mind. Not saying that it won't happen, i.e. his prediction about Bitcoin, which by the way is a $318,000 Bitcoin in just really about a year's time. However, in Larry's opinion, this guy looks like the equivalent of Citi's Anthony Pompliano, possibly. Let's get into all the details here, guys. If you like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency, be sure to like and subscribe. All right, so here's the rub at a top level. CitiBank executive says Bitcoin could pass $300,000 in just 13 months. So that's effectively by December 2021. Again, this was more or less confidential information, or at least information that was intended for an inner circle that was then leaked by this account, Classic Macro on Twitter. We'll get to all of that in just a second. Let's take a look here at the specifics of what exactly was leaked. So Alex at Classic Macro, CitiBank Bitcoin technical analysis target moon. So Thomas Fitzpatrick is a managing director at CitiBank, and he penned the following client newsletter discussing some of the similarities between Bitcoin and gold. We don't necessarily have to get into all of those. I think it's a little bit pessimistic, I think, in fact, to be too myopic in terms of that analogy. The important thing is the quantitative prediction that he's making. So here in brief, the whole existence of Bitcoin has been characterized by unthinkable rallies followed by painful corrections. The first major rally on this chart, which we're going to look at in a second, as Bitcoin came into the mainstream, was the exponential move from 2010 into the 2011 high, followed by a deep correction. Now, I think generally speaking here, the analogy can be made. People often describe how Bitcoin is the digital gold. I don't think it should maybe necessarily go deeper than that. I don't think the price fluctuations of Bitcoin can be mapped onto any historical gold precedents. I think in this case, that's what Tom is trying to do. Just maybe a difference of opinion there. But as he describes here, we're on the cusp perhaps of another major structural development. This is largely happening for a couple of reasons that he points out. Waning confidence in the US dollar as a function of increased quantitative easing, as a function of all the stimulus money being printed, whether or not you agree with that initiative. But these are the consequences that the world and consumers and citizens are now dealing with, of course. Tom continues here. Bitcoin is the new gold. It is an asset with limited supply. It is digital. This is the 21st century, and gold is a 20th century asset. Bitcoin moves across borders easily, and ownership is opaque. That last point is, I believe, very relevant. The huge fiscal deterioration of today has a cost in the future, either directly or indirectly. Directly, it is that at some point the quote bills have to be paid, which means that sometime in the future the money needs to be found. While Bitcoin may become subject to more regulatory constraints going forward, it is a natural store of money in order to avoid this, that inflation, that debt that he's talking about going forward. And in the context of this discussion, we have to point to the fact that central banks, in fact 80% of central banks, are talking and openly discussing and planning for and even piloting the usage of digital assets, including CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. So the writing is on the wall. They're preparing for it already. So, Tom writes, let us go back to the chart. And this is the chart that Tom is referring to in his newsletter, again, to insider clients, to a small group of individuals. A CitiBank official with this opinion is a pretty big deal. They'd never come out and say it publicly, but as you can see here, these major moves that Tom here has mapped onto the price performance chart of Bitcoin, extrapolating to December 2021, 2021, where he believes realistically and based on all kinds of data and statistical precedents that Bitcoin could achieve a price of $318,000. Again, not years and years from now, next year, December 2021. So, writes Tom, let us go back to the chart. After the high was posted in 2011, we saw Bitcoin retrace 93% over 5 months. Not for the faint of heart at all. That was followed by a 9-year period that has been much more symmetric as Bitcoin as an asset became more visible and increasingly more mainstream. First point, it rallied for 2 years between 2011 and 2013, multiplying, by the way, 555 times. It then fell from December 2013 to January 2015 by 86%. Then it rallied from January 2015 to 2017. That lasted 2 years and 11 months, multiplying 121 times. And then, as we know, it fell from December 2017 to 2018, about 12 months, fell by 84%. But it rallied from December 2018 to, well, who's to say we're still in that rallying process, in that bull market right now. And here is the all-important conclusion that Tom is reaching. You look at the price action being much more symmetrical over the past 7 years or so, while still huge numbers, forming what looks like a very well-defined channel, giving us an up move of similar time frame to the last rally. Such an argument would suggest that this move could potentially peak in December of 2021 next year at the high of the channel, suggesting a move as high as $318,000. Improbable though that seems, it would only be a low to high rally of 102 times, the weakest rally so far in terms of percentage, at a point where the arguments in favor of Bitcoin could well be at their most persuasive ever. I think Tom gets it. I think the GIF here just about sums it up. This is a big deal, guys. Look, bankers aren't stupid. They're trying to protect their dynasties. Of course, you can't necessarily fault them for that, but they're certainly discussing this stuff behind the scenes. They certainly know what's up and they can see the trend and they can extrapolate going forward. So it's very interesting to note that this was, again, I guess hacked. I'm not exactly sure how Macro Classic came about this information. Maybe he's part of that group of clients or whatnot, but this was obviously intended for a smaller group of individuals, and now it has leaked. I mean, it just goes to show, can you imagine what kind of other discussions that are being had at CitiBank, up the flagpole, across other banks, across other institutions? Believe me, this is only the beginning. Crypto Twitter is ablaze with enthusiasm, and rightly so. Tyler Winklevoss here. CitiBank report predicts Bitcoin price of $318,000 by December 2021. Buckle up. So that's great news for Bitcoin over the long term, but as I alluded to earlier, really our hero of the day, at least our coin of the day, is Litecoin, up over 13% in these last 24 hours and doing really, really well. $71.21, 26 cents right now, up 13.1% on the day. Lunar Crush has observed that Litecoin is the coin of the day for this 16th of November. Here are the 24-hour highlights. $67.452 at the time of this tweet. That is well below where we sit now. 2,722 social post mentions. That's up nearly 65%. 5.2 million social post engagements. That's up over 80%. And 160 average hourly social contributors. That's up nearly 38%. And I'm hoping, guys, that you benefited from some of this price movement. Maybe you've padded your pockets a bit. As you may recall, 2 days ago, Litecoin was one of our top selections in this video, altcoins that we have our eyes on. And I think for good reason. I think Litecoin, in a sense, has been stalling perhaps, or maybe like it's a lagging indicator, I would argue, as far as price performance, as far as enthusiasm goes, because the eyes of the world right now are definitely on Bitcoin, are definitely on Ethereum. But certainly Litecoin, I think indirectly, is also getting a lot of enthusiasm regarding that PayPal integration. Don't forget, Litecoin was one of the supported projects. And not only does Litecoin have quite a ways to go to return to its all-time highs that I think ultimately it can even surpass, not only is there that distance that exists right now as a percentage of its value against both Ethereum and against Bitcoin, you're sitting at basically all-time lows right now. So there's a lot of ground to be made up there. I think people are starting to recognize and realize it. Just my opinion, of course, not financial advice, but we're very happy to see Litecoin's recent performance and certainly hope it continues. And here on altcoinbuzz.io, given all the recent excitement that you're seeing, that we're all seeing collectively in this space, is it any surprise that Bitcoin is really starting to catch the attention of billionaires the world over? Here on the site, Billionares Bitcoin Club, who's in this article by Jeffrey, well, an increasing number of billionaires are investing some of their wealth into Bitcoin. And you know what? It's not at all surprising. It started with the Michael Saylors and the MicroStrategies of the world, maybe the Barry Silberts and the Grayscales and the Squares and the Jack Dorseys, of course. But more and more, you're missing out. Bitcoin used to be a risk as far as participation. Now it's very much a risk if you are not participating and hedging your bet against US dollars or whatever other currency with Bitcoin and other cryptos. And you guys can check out the article. It is based on this tweet here by Crypto Rand. 9 billionaires who own Bitcoin plus their estimated net worth. Mark Cuban at $4.3 billion. Elon Musk, who's very much almost like an evangelical, I would say, in the space. He's worth about $40 billion. Paul Tudor Jones, who came out with extreme bullishness concerning Bitcoin lately. He's worth $5.1 billion. Brian Armstrong, 1.3. Jack Dorsey, 4.7 billion. Again, whose Twitter bio is simply #Bitcoin, the man behind the Square app and the man to whom we owe quite a bit for the advancement of this space. Changpeng Zhao, of course, of Binance, worth, wow, $2.6 billion, deservedly so. Winklevoss twins worth $1.8 billion. Tim Draper worth a cool billion, and Shamat Palihaptia $1 billion. And we'll round out the video, guys, with some rapid fire news concerning some updates with our favorite projects here on altcoinbuzz.io. Is ShareRing SHR bullishness real? You may recall this article from a few days ago, the 13th of November by Deepika. Well, now I want to update you guys as to a new partnership. So ShareRing and Rakuten Travel Partnership. This from just yesterday. More than 600,000 hotels and 200,000 rental properties have now been added to ShareRing, the popular sharing ecosystem. This is a strategic partnership in that Rakuten, with its massive inventory of over 200,000 rentals and 600,000 hotels, will now be available on the ShareRing platform via its ShareLedger technology. And the partnership will facilitate the easy booking of any hotel or rental property on the Rakuten platform for anyone with ShareRing's API. And bookings will also be cheaper and faster with innovative features like ShareLedger and ShareRing ID. Now, it just so happens that SHR is actually down on the day, down 3.9%. But again, we're not too concerned with the micro perspective. We're concerned about the long-term performance. And this, I think, irrefutably is good news for the project. It's a big deal because Rakuten Travel is a subsidiary of the Japanese technology giant known as the Rakuten Group, and the group boasts of innovative and groundbreaking solutions in top fields like e-commerce and travel, and its influence doesn't stop at Japan since it extends around the globe. So the partnership with ShareRing is an important addition to the platform. One major attraction point to Rakuten is ShareRing's recently launched Universal ID, again known as ShareRing ID. A couple more quick updates here on altcoinbuzz.io. Zilliqa introduces Zyro protocol. Zilliqa has revealed details about the Zyro protocol, including a major name change. So recently, Zilliqa announced the development of the Zyro protocol, which is a decentralized protocol that has been developed upon the Zilliqa public chain. Having gained support from the Zilliqa Foundation, different parties have been attracted to Zyro, and rightfully so. Check out our article, guys, by David. We'll link to it below. Zilliqa, ticker ZIL, up today 1.2%. And finally, guys, LoopRing has released details of its new fee plans. You can also check that out on altcoinbuzz.io with this article by Rachel. Makers will now get paid when takers fill their orders with the new fee schedule released by Ethereum-based protocol LoopRing. That project, ticker LRC, is up 1.7% on the day. And that about wraps it up for today, everybody. Hey, do be sure you're following us, of course, on all the regular social media channels. Keep checking back into altcoinbuzz.io for all the latest. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications. We put out a lot of content, therefore that allows you to keep up with all of it. Best of luck, guys, if you choose to invest on this very green Monday. Let's see how long it lasts. Not to jinx anything, of course, but things go up, things go down, as you well know, being in this space. So best of luck if you do choose to invest. Stay safe out there, everybody, and as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video.